It was close to midnight when Jake Marlowe pulled his beat-up sedan to the side of the road, the rideshare app chiming softly as the next pickup came in. Maple and Fourth, he muttered, squinting at the screen. That part of town was quiet. Too quiet. But it was Friday, and late-night rides were his bread and butter. The air outside was cool, and the smell of rain still lingered from an earlier drizzle. Jake took a sip of his lukewarm gas station coffee and turned up the heater a notch. His car rattled a little, like it always did when he made that left turn down the narrow street. The woman was standing under a flickering street lamp. She wore a long, dark coat that nearly brushed the ground and a wide-brimmed black hat that cast a shadow over her face. Jake couldn't see her eyes clearly, but she lifted one pale hand and waved. He slowed to a stop and unlocked the doors. "For Eliza?" he asked. She nodded, then slid silently into the back seat. Jake glanced at her through the rear-view mirror. She sat stiffly, her hands folded in her lap. She never made eye contact. "Cold night," he offered, trying to make small talk. "No, answer." "Where you headed?" says here. "Chester Avenue?" "That's a good 15 minutes. Still, nothing." Jake shrugged and started the car. The silence stretched long and uneasy. The city outside rolled past in patches of shadow and sodium light. He kept glancing in the mirror, expecting her to say something, anything, but she didn't. He noticed small things. Her clothes looked old-fashioned, almost like something out of a 1940s movie. Her hands were too still, not tapping a phone, not fidgeting, just resting. Like porcelain. Jake turned on the radio to fill the silence. Soft rock crackled through. "The speakers! Do you want me to change the station?" he asked. Nothing. Goosebumps prickled on his arms. Maybe she was just shy. Maybe deaf. But something felt off. When he pulled onto Chester Avenue, he slowed near the address on the screen. It was an old house, the kind with boarded-up windows and a lawn overrun with weeds. A rusted chain-link fence surrounded the yard, swaying. Slightly in the wind. "Here we are," Jake said. "Chester and 12th. Still, she didn't speak. He turned around to look at her. The seat was empty. Jake blinked. He blinked again. What the hell? There was no sign of the woman. The seatbelt was still buckled. A faint indentation remained on the leather. But no door had opened, no sound, no movement. He opened the back door and looked around. Nothing. Not on the street, not in the yard, not anywhere. Jake felt his stomach twist. He reached for his phone to check the app. There was no record of the ride, not a pickup, not a drop-off. Nothing. His hands started to tremble. He slammed the door shut, put the car in drive, and got the hell out of there. But the feeling didn't leave him. That pressure in the back seat. That silence. That cold. That night, Jake didn't take any more rides. He went home, locked the door, and double-checked his apartment windows. He barely slept. The next morning, he checked the forums. Rideshare. Drivers had a whole online world of their own, full of weird stories and late-night confessions. He typed, "Picked up a passenger last night." Disappeared from the back seat. No record of the ride. He didn't expect a reply, but one came in a few minutes later. User, Cold Fare 82. Was it a woman in black? Hat? Quiet? Chester Avenue? Jake stared. He typed back, "Yes. Who is she?" Cold Fare 82 replied, "Don't go back there, ever." Another reply followed. From a different user. User, Driver down 45. "You're not the first." She gets in. Never talks. Always vanishes before the end of the ride. Sometimes leaves something behind. Check your back seat. Jake felt the hair on his arms. Stand up. He didn't want to. But he had to. He grabbed his keys, went out to the car, and opened the back door. At first he saw nothing, then he noticed it, on the floor. Tucked into the crease where the seat met the carpet, a photograph, old, black and white, a young woman standing under a street lamp. Hat, coat. The same woman. But the photo was dated in the corner. October 12th, 1947. Jake dropped it like it burned. He spent the day digging. Old newspaper archives, city records, anything he could find. It took hours. But he found her. Eliza Warren, age 26, reported missing October 13th, 1947. Last seen hailing a cab near Maple and 4th never found. Rumors had swirled. A jealous lover. A violent passenger. The cab never returned. Some said the driver disappeared too. Jake leaned back in his chair, the room spinning slightly. He hadn't dreamed it. He hadn't imagined her. She had been in his car, and she wasn't done. That night, Jake stayed off the app. He told himself he was done driving, that he'd get a new job, something safe, something sane. But the next night, just after 11 p.m., his phone buzzed. New ride request, Eliza. Pick up at Maple and 4th. Jake stared at the screen, frozen. The phone buzzed again, then a third time. 3 rides, all for Eliza. He turned off the phone, tossed it across the room, but when he turned around, his car keys were missing, and from the hallway, just beyond his bedroom door, he heard the soft click of a car door opening and then closing. Silently. Just like before, they say some rides you don't accept. They accept you, and once she gets in the car, she never really gets out. The thrift store smelled like dust and forgotten things. You know the kind of place. Faded yellow tags, shelves packed with cracked coffee mugs, old radios that didn't work anymore, and a half-sad, half-magical hum in the air. That's where Mark found the tape. It was shoved between a stack of 80s workout videos and a worn-out copy of Bambi. The cover was black, no label, just "Play Me" scratched into the plastic with something sharp. It should have felt cheesy. It should have screamed, prank or cheap scare. But Mark's fingers tingled when he touched it. Like static electricity. Like it wanted to be found. He bought it for 50 cents. Back at home, he had to dig out the old VHS player from his closet. The thing hadn't seen daylight in over a decade. Dust puffed into the air when he opened the lid. He hooked it up to the small TV in his guest room, the only one with the right input ports. The tape slid in with a click. The screen fuzzed, then snapped into focus. It showed a man, sitting in a chair, watching a TV. Mark leaned forward. The man looked just like him. Same hoodie, same haircut, same room. It was him. "What the hell?" he whispered. The tape showed him, watching the tape. His confused face, the little tilt of his head, even the way he scratched the back of his neck when he was nervous. It wasn't just a look-alike, it was now. It was real time. A loop. Mark jumped up and turned to look behind him. Nothing. Just the beige wall. He looked back at the screen. Still him. Still looping. He ejected the tape. Shook it. Put it back in. Same thing. He watched himself watching himself. For minutes. Then hours. The second night, something changed. He was back in the same chair watching again. It was addictive, like scratching an itch deep in the brain. But this time, something else was there, behind him. At first, he thought it was a trick of the static. A blur near the doorway. No shape, no sound. But it hadn't been there before. On the tape, he turned and looked, just like he had the night before. And the blur vanished. He checked behind him again. Nothing. Night 3, the blur had legs. It stood near the wall now, tall, thin, like someone stretched out of proportion. Its face was nothing, just black, like a hole. Mark paused the tape, rewound, watched again. The thing didn't move, but it was closer. Closer than the night before. He unplugged the VCR. The next night, he told himself he wouldn't watch. He left the guest room door closed, took a sleeping pill, tried to read, but the pull was too strong. At 2:14 a.m., he turned the TV back on. The tape started by itself. He watched. The figure stood directly behind the chair now, looming. Its hand, if you could call it that, hovered above his shoulder, and on the screen, the version of him started to cry. Mark spun around. Of course, nothing was there. But the air was cold. The kind of cold that lives in basements, in graveyards, in things that don't breathe. The next day, he returned to the thrift store. It was gone. The windows were boarded up. A faded sign in the window read, "Closed for good." No one had seen the owners in weeks. No one remembered them. He drove home, heart thumping like a drum. The tape still sat in the player, waiting. He tried burning it. The flames danced around it, but the tape wouldn't melt. Wouldn't even smoke. He tried smashing it. The hammer bounced off like rubber. Night fell. He told himself he could just ignore it. He was wrong. 14 a.m. The TV flicked on by itself. The tape rolled. On screen, the mark in the chair looked pale, eyes sunken, mouth open like he was screaming. But no sound came out. The figure stood beside him now, one hand on his shoulder, the other slowly reaching around toward his face. Mark couldn't move. He watched the thing lean down, whisper something into the other Mark's ear. The mark on screen smiled, then looked straight at the camera, straight at him. Mark felt breath on his neck. He turned. Darkness, silence. The tape ended. Only static remained. They found the house weeks later. Empty. Dusty. VHS still in the player. No sign of Mark. Just the tape. And every time someone plays it, a new person appears. Watching. Waiting. Until the thing behind them gets close enough to touch. The first time it spoke, Marie thought it was the wind. Just a whisper. A low murmur coming from the kitchen sink. She was doing dishes late at night, her hands deep in warm, soapy water, her mind drifting somewhere between sleep and worry. Single. Motherhood had its way of stretching every nerve, every ounce of patience. Tommy, her 6-year-old, had been unusually quiet that day. She thought it was just a phase. Kids go through those, right? The whisper came again the next night. Louder. This time. Marie paused, her hands trembling slightly in the water. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. Then from the drain came a soft, unmistakable voice. "Mommy." She backed away from the sink, her heart knocking against her ribs. "Tommy?" Silence. The next morning she chalked it up to stress. She hadn't been sleeping well, and the bills were piling up. She made pancakes, kissed Tommy on the forehead, and sent him off to school. But that night, it spoke again. "He wants to stay." Marie dropped a plate into the sink, and it shattered. She stared at the drain, wide-eyed, breathing heavily. The voice didn't come again, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was listening. By the fourth night, Tommy stopped eating. He stared into the sink for long periods, as if in a trance. When she asked him what was wrong, he simply said, "They like it when I listen." Marie took him to a doctor. Nothing. Perfectly healthy. A therapist. Nothing again. Just an active imagination. Then, he vanished. It was a Wednesday morning. She'd gone to wake him for school, and his bed was empty. His favorite stuffed lion, Leo, lay on the pillow. But Tommy was gone. No sign of forced entry, no open windows, just gone. The police came, searched the house, questioned neighbors. Marie cried until she couldn't anymore. Days turned into a week. Flyers were printed. Hope started to flicker like a dying bulb. Then, the sink whispered again, "He is here." Marie, hollow-eyed and trembling, crept into the kitchen. She stared into the drain, barely able to breathe. "Give him back," she said. Her voice cracked. "There's a price," it said. She didn't ask what. She didn't want to know. She screamed, cursed, poured bleach and boiling water down the pipes. But the voice remained. That night, she dreamed of water. Dark, endless water. In it, Tommy floated just beneath the surface, eyes open, mouth moving, whispering. Around him were shadows, children with empty faces, watching, waiting. She woke up, gasping, her sheets soaked with sweat. Marie tried to live. She went to work, cooked meals she didn't eat, spoke to people she didn't hear. The kitchen sink became a ghost she avoided. But every night at 2:14 a.m., it whispered, "You can still save him." Eventually, she asked, "What's the price?" "The," Drain gurgled. Then, another child. She collapsed to the floor. They had offered her a deal. Her son for someone else's. An impossible decision. But the whispers continued, and in each dream, Tommy sank deeper into that black water. His eyes grew dimmer. The others got closer. She found herself at the park one day watching kids play. One little girl with curly red hair laughed as she spun on the carousel. Marie sat on a bench, silent, thinking, drowning in guilt. She couldn't do it. She went home and screamed into the sink, screamed until her throat bled, screamed for God, for mercy, for death. "I can't," she whispered finally. Silence. For 3 nights, the sink said nothing. The house felt colder, darker. Then on the 4th night, a voice returned. Not a whisper, a cry. "Mommy, help me!" "Tommy." Marie ran to the sink, sobbing. "Tell me what to do." The voice was clearer now, not the strange, echoing murmur from before. It was Tommy's voice, desperate and small. "You have to come." "Where?" "Inside." The drain gurgled. Water poured from the faucet without her touching it. The metal twisted, the hole widening like a yawning mouth. "Come find me." Marie didn't think. She reached into the drain. It felt soft, cold, like skin. Then it pulled her. Darkness. She fell for what felt like forever. And then, water. Thick, heavy, pressing from all sides. She opened her eyes. It wasn't water. It was something darker, something alive. In the distance, she saw Tommy, floating, reaching. She swam, or tried. The water clung to her like fingers, but she fought. Hands. Grabbed at her legs, her arms. Faces formed around her, children with hollow eyes and stitched mouths. She screamed, but it made no sound. She grabbed Tommy. He was cold but alive. His lips moved, whispering something she couldn't hear. Then she let go. Woke up. She was on the kitchen floor, wet. The sink, dripping. Tommy's stuffed lion in her arms, but no Tommy. She cried for days. Then one morning she heard laughter from his room. She ran in. Tommy sat on the bed smiling, playing with Leo. "You came for me," he said. Marie hugged him, crying, shaking. "Never. Again. Never." He pulled back and looked at her. His eyes weren't the same. They were darker. And somewhere deep in the pipes, the sink whispered once more. "You still owe us." The forgotten room, it started on a rainy Sunday, the kind of day where the clouds hang low and the world feels muffled. Emily and Mark had moved into the old house just a month prior. It was a fixer-upper, but they saw potential, a place to build a life together. While organizing the basement, Mark noticed something odd. A section of the wall, behind a stack of old paint cans, seemed different. The bricks were newer, the mortar fresher. Curiosity piqued, he called Emily over. "Did we ever notice this before?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, they decided to investigate." With some effort, they removed the bricks, revealing a wooden door. It was old, yet the wood was unweathered, as if it had been placed recently. Mark hesitated, hand on the doorknob. Emily nodded, urging him on. The door creaked open, revealing a small room. Dust particles danced in the beam of their flashlight. The air was thick, musty. Inside, the walls were lined with photographs. Hundreds of them. Each one was of them, Emily and Mark, sleeping. Different nights, different angles, some close-ups, others from afar, all candid. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. This can't be real. Mark stepped closer, examining a photo. This was taken last week. Panic set in. Who had taken these? How long had this been going on? Why were they here? They decided to remove the photos to take them to the police. But as they tried to peel one off, it wouldn't budge. It was as if it was part of the wall. They tried another. Same result. Suddenly the door slammed shut. Darkness enveloped them. Their flashlight flickered, then died. They were trapped. A soft hum began, growing louder. The photos started to glow, illuminating the room in a ghostly light. The images began to change. Now they showed Emily and Mark, standing in the room, looking at the photos. Then another layer. Emily and Mark looking at themselves, looking at the photos. An infinite loop, Emily screamed. Mark pounded on the door, no response. Then a whisper, soft, almost inaudible. "They see you." The room grew colder, their breath visible. The walls began to close in, the photos multiplying, covering every inch. The hum turned into a deafening roar. And then, silence. The door creaked open. The basement was empty. No sign of Emily or Mark, just the sealed wall, untouched. Weeks later, a new couple moved in. They found the basement charming, perfect for storage. One day, while organizing, they noticed a section of the wall that seemed different. It started as a challenge, a simple, daring experiment. Ryan, a popular live streamer known for pushing boundaries, announced he would spend 7 days completely off the grid. No internet, no distractions, just him. A haunted cabin deep in the woods and his camera. His fans loved the idea. It was raw, real, spooky. The cabin sat miles away from the nearest town, surrounded by thick forest and total silence. It had no electricity, no running water, and most importantly, no Wi-Fi. Perfect. Ryan brought a generator, a handheld camera, and enough food to last a week. The plan was to record daily updates and upload them once he returned. Easy. The first day, he was full of energy. He filmed himself exploring the place. Creaky wooden floors, dust-covered furniture, a fireplace with half-burned logs, and a small, lonely bed. A single rocking chair sat in the corner like it was waiting for someone. 7 days in hell, Ryan laughed, signing off the first entry with a grin. By the second day, things had settled. Ryan talked to the camera about how weird the silence was. City noise had been replaced by whispers of wind and the occasional creak of the cabin. He chopped wood, walked the forest trail, and made jokes about hearing something moving outside at night. Probably just raccoons, he shrugged, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. Then came day 3. Back in the city, Ryan's fans got a notification. Live. Day 3. Midnight thoughts. Confused, they clicked. The screen showed Ryan sitting in the cabin staring at the camera. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just sat there. His eyes looked hollow, dead. After an hour, the stream cut out. His audience exploded with theories. Was it scheduled footage? A prank? How could he be streaming with no internet? On day 4, another stream appeared. This time, Ryan was pacing the room, mumbling to himself. His words were jumbled and impossible to understand. He stopped suddenly, looked directly into the camera, and whispered, "They're watching me." Then came a loud bang, like a door slamming, and the screen went black. People started to worry. They tried messaging him. No response. Some even contacted local police, begging them to check the cabin, but the forest was big, and the cabin wasn't on any official map. Day 5's stream shook everyone. The camera had been placed in a new corner, facing the bed. Ryan was asleep. The room was dim, the only light coming from a flickering lantern. And then, a figure appeared at the window. It was tall, dark, watching. It didn't move like a person. Slowly, it crept inside and stood at the edge of the bed, staring down at Ryan, who never woke up. The stream ended there. Panic spread through Ryan's community. Some said it was a demon. Others believed someone was stalking him. No one had answers, but everyone agreed. The fear in his eyes was real. Day 6 brought silence. No video, no stream. Just a dead channel. His followers refreshed his page for hours, hoping for anything. Nothing came. Until day 7. On the 7th day, the final stream began. The cabin was trashed, furniture flipped, deep scratch marks carved into the walls. Ryan appeared. His face was pale, lips cracked, and eyes filled with terror. He leaned into the camera and said, "I shouldn't have come here." Then, behind him, the shadow returned. It stepped forward, closer. Ryan didn't move. He didn't scream. He just stared at the lens as the thing reached for him. The stream ended with a high-pitched screech, somewhere between static and a scream. Authorities arrived the next day. They found the cabin exactly as shown in the video. Damaged, dusty, but empty. Ryan was gone. No blood, no sign of struggle. Just his equipment, his backpack, and a running generator. His camera, oddly, was missing. To this day, no one knows what happened to him. But strange things began occurring. Months later, people started reporting new live streams appearing on Ryan's channel. Always late at night. The cabin shows up, unchanged. Sometimes you can see a figure moving behind the curtains. Sometimes you hear Ryan whispering from the dark. It's still here. Some say he's trapped, broadcasting forever from a place that doesn't follow the rules of time or space. Others believe he opened a door to something ancient. But one thing is certain. The stream never really ends.